Welcome to this edition of Wealth Without Borders. And I'm delighted to have with me today Tibor Baranski. Welcome to the show, Tibor.
Thank you. Thank you, Howard.
And I always ask this, where are you in the world today and what's the weather like?
I'm in Western New York in the Buffalo, Niagara area, close to the Niagara Falls, and the weather is hot and humid, a wonderful summer evening.
Oh, lovely. Well, I'm in a wonderful, hot and humid summer morning in Shanghai. So it's very good to have you here on the show. For those of you who don't know Tibor, I can safely describe him as truly eminent in his field. He's counsel at Jun He LLP, which is the first private law firm in mainland China post-1949. And then Tibor's been a member of the Asian expat community in China and in Japan for almost 35 years. In fact, he was the legal counsel to Japanese business interests regarding China since before people even realized that it existed. So, very warm welcome, Tibor.
Thank you again, Howard.
And the
honor to be with you.
That's my pleasure too. And the podcast title today is Don't Be in Denial About Reality. So that's a fascinating title in itself. As you may know, Tibor, I give 8 minutes for 8 questions, and I will try my best to give you the amount of time remaining in between each question. So are you ready to start?
Yes, I am, Howard.
Excellent. So question number 1, who is your ideal client?
The ideal client would be one that is not in denial about reality, that avoids cultural obfuscation, engages in quantification, and takes care of all of the client's problems holistically, not just in your area of specialization.
Excellent. 7 minutes, 35 remaining. Question 2, what's the problem that you solve?
I deal with legal issues at the operational level and connecting these with higher level issues as these relate to China inbound business and investment by Japanese, US, and European companies.
Okay. Question number 3, 7 minutes, 12 remaining. What are the typical symptoms that people experience with that problem?
Well, the one I pointed out earlier is the denial of reality, a lack of understanding of the objective reality, not as you hope or wish it would be, connecting the operational level issues with the big issues or the mega trends, and sometimes even in less favorable cases, the client can be ideologically driven.
Right. Well, I'm sure you've had some experience of that over the years. 6 minutes, 35 remaining. Question number 4, Tibor. What are the common mistakes people make when they're trying to solve that problem?
Well, typically, lack of understanding of what goes on the ground. Arrogance sometimes plays into it, and not knowing the details, not being able to say, I don't know what I don't know, and trying to supplement that with good business and legal advice.
Right. Question number 5, 6 minutes remaining. What's one valuable free action that people checking out the podcast today can implement that will help them to solve not all of that problem, but at least some of it?
Well, get a very solid business plan and strategy in place, and this should be founded on scenario planning, both in positive and negative circumstances, and avoid being trendy. Keep your eyes again on the reality.
Well, I should imagine in 2020 that is even more pertinent. 5 minutes, 28 remaining. Question number 6. What's one valuable free resource that you can direct people to that will further help them with this problem?
Essentially, what I just mentioned, strategy with backup strategies, and have realistic expectations. Oftentimes, the failures come from unrealistic expectations that the local people within China simply cannot deliver, and being cognizant of that is imperative.
Right. Is there a particular resource do you think you could point people to that might help them strategize?
Yes, I would like to point out a book that was published in 2008, edited by my friend John Hoffmann and Michael Enright, both vintage Harvard. The title of the book is China into the Future, published in 2008 by Wiley, and it's a collection of 8 or 9 essays on scenario planning regarding China, giving a sense of the operational and higher level issue connectivity.
Fantastic. Great advice. Just over 4 minutes remaining, Tibor. Question number 7. We've talked about a book for your clients, but in your own personal experience, what concept or book or program or talk or mentor even has been the most impactful in your experience?
Professor K.H. Ting, who's the father of Samuel C.C. Ting, Nobel laureate in physics, 1975. I lived with Sam Ting's father in Taipei for 3 years during the 1970s and received the old May 4th movement type of education, which permeates Taiwanese education, the Republic of China education system.
Oh, how fantastic. That is something we could talk about at length at another podcast. Just over 3 minutes remaining, Tibor, so plenty of time. Question number 8, what's the one question that I should have asked you that you feel would give the greatest value to our audience, and what's the answer?
The question I'd like to ask here is, why did I choose my profession, i.e. to be a lawyer? And as you noted in the introduction, I chose it for Japan-China reasons, to advise Japanese companies on their China business. My foundations for this were as an undergraduate at Princeton in the 1970s. And while studying in Japan in the mid to late 70s, I realized that there was a gap of no Japanese or Chinese lawyers who were helping Japanese companies with their China inbound business and investments. And that's really what took me off initially. I was working with a Japanese law firm for 15 years and now with Jun He for nearly 20 years, advising not only Japanese but also European and American business interests in China.
Right. So that very first investigation has taken you on a massive journey, in fact.
It has. This journey dates back basically to matriculating at Princeton in September 1975. One of my primary advisors at Princeton, Professor Frederick Mote, who is in heaven already, and Marion Levy, and Professor Ting in Taipei. My foundations were in the 70s. So when I did my law studies in China from 82 to 84, I went there blessed with an understanding of real Chinese society and civilization, at least to the extent I could have. And that helped me to give depth of field and perspective to the things I learned at Peking University in the law department during those 2 years.
Fantastic. We've got just over a minute remaining. We've got time for a bonus question, which is the first time it's ever happened. I just want to ask you, why do you believe it's so important to be realistic when it comes to dealing with things in China particularly?
Well, China since 1949 has had a spectacular history, but also a tumultuous history. And expectations of foreigners, non-Chinese people, especially in the business area when coming into China, tend to be rather detached, sometimes very detached from the reality. So expectations become such that the Chinese people simply cannot deliver on that for a variety of reasons. And it's something that we should be cognizant of when doing business.
Thank you so much, Tibor. That was really very valuable, I'm sure, to everyone checking out the podcast.
Thank you, Howard. It was a pleasure to be with you today, and I hope your audience has found this to be helpful.
I have no doubt they will. Thank you again, Tibor. Have a good evening in Buffalo.
Thank you.
Many thanks for checking out Wealth Without Borders podcast. I'd love you to head over to iTunes, subscribe, and leave us a review. And if you'd be kind enough to do that, I would really appreciate it. And then if you want to know more about what I do, check out wealthwithoutborders.net.